All right, ready to dive in. Today, it's the U.S. Secret Service. I bet you think you know them, right? Those agents, always right behind the president, sunglasses on.
Yeah, the Hollywood image.
But there's a whole lot more to the agency than what we see in the movies. Way more.
It's really fascinating how they work, both here and all over the world. It's a whole web of security stuff and, global politics, too.
Exactly. And guess what? Their beginnings are all about money.
Oh, yeah.
Not guarding it, though.
Yeah.
Chasing the fakes.
True. Back in 1865, right after the Civil War ended, the U.S. had a huge counterfeit problem. Get this. Almost half of all the money circulating was fake.
Wow.
And on the very day he was assassinated, President Lincoln actually created the Secret Service
Yeah.
to tackle this, financial crisis head on.
So they started out as like an economic security force.
Yeah, absolutely. And that part, protecting our financial security, that's still core to what they do. It's not just about protecting people. It's about protecting our money, making sure the whole financial system is safe.
Incredible how that original mission changed as our country changed. But of course, when most people think Secret Service, they think protecting the president.
Right, and that really shifted after President McKinley was assassinated in 1901. That's when Congress stepped in and said, hey, we need the Secret Service to protect all the presidents from now on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So from chasing counterfeiters to guarding presidents, that's quite a resume. But who else do they protect? This list we have from our research is long, to say the least.
It is. It's a big one. So obviously the current president, their family. Then you've got former presidents, their spouses, for their whole lives, unless they say no, of course. Then their kids up to age 16, major presidential candidates.
Wait, hold on. Former presidents' kids get protection too for
Yeah.
that long.
Yeah.
Why? What's the thinking there, and does that even work when they travel abroad?
Good questions. There are a bunch of reasons. Former presidents, they still have a lot of sensitive information, right? And they can be targets even after they leave office. Plus, there's a whole symbolism thing. They represent the U.S.
I can see that. But what about when they go overseas? Does the Secret Service follow them everywhere?
Global protection. That gets complicated. It exists, definitely, but it involves coordinating with the countries they visit. And there are limits. Plus, think about it these days. Presidential families travel way more, so the Secret Service's job just got, a lot bigger internationally.
So we have this huge list of people to protect here and around the world. How do they even do it? I'm guessing high-tech stuff plays a big role.
Definitely. It's a multi-layered approach. You've got advanced tech combined with good old-fashioned manpower and intelligence gathering. Basically, they're masters of planning, thinking ahead to stop threats before they even happen.
Our research mentioned working with other agencies, too. What does that look like practically?
Super important. They work closely with local police, the military, intelligence agencies, especially when the president's traveling.
Like, can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say the president is going to visit another country. Months before the trip, Secret Service teams are already there, on the ground, working with that country's security folks. They're figuring out risks, planning routes, checking out locations, setting up communications. It's a huge operation.
That's wild. And I can't forget those 12 fast facts we found. Some were, let's just say, intriguing. Like, the president is never alone, not even in the bathroom.
It's true. There's always an agent nearby making sure they're safe, 24/7. Might seem a little much, but that's the level of, vigilance that this job needs.
Then there's carrying bags of the president's blood type, just in case.
Yeah.
And analyzing the ink and threat letters. That's like spy stuff.
Right. It shows just how seriously they take their job, to be ready for anything. And that ink analysis thing, it can actually give them clues, help them find who's making the threats.
Makes you realize how much is going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But let's change gears for a second. What about the Secret Service today? I mean, the challenges. Our research mentioned morale being a problem.
Unfortunately, yeah. There have been some incidents, some scandals in the past few years. It's affected morale and how people see them. Remember that survey from 2016 about employee satisfaction? The Secret Service was dead last out of all federal agencies.
It's worrying. What's causing these problems?
Lots of things. It's a tough job, high pressure, long hours, and they often have to make sacrifices in their personal lives. Plus, there's the budget stuff, the ever-increasing demands. It all adds up.
It's a good reminder that these are people, too, with lives outside of this incredibly demanding job.
Absolutely. We can't forget that.
Welcome back to our deep dive on the U.S. Secret Service.
It's amazing what we've learned already, their whole history, the two sides of their work, all the people they protect.
And that's just the beginning. Think about it. Protecting people in this crazy globalized world we live in, where threats pop up from anywhere, that takes serious skill and coordination.
It does. I mean, the world is so interconnected, right? More travel, more events, more everything. And probably more risk for the people the Secret Service has to keep safe. For sure. Their whole operational landscape has changed drastically. It's not just about security here at home anymore. They're on a global stage working with tons of international partners.
Okay, so how do they make sure protection is effective in all these different environments? It's got to be a lot of flexibility and adapting on the fly, right?
Absolutely right. They have to be able to handle threats in any setting you can imagine. Big cities, tiny villages, friendly countries, not so friendly ones, you name it.
Not to mention different laws, customs, political climates.
Exactly. It's a balancing act. They have to be strong on security, but not step on anyone's toes, diplomatically speaking. Building good relationships with other countries' security agencies, that's super key.
So it's not just about muscle and firepower. It's diplomacy and intelligence too.
Exactly. Today, protecting people well means understanding global politics, cultural differences, how everything's connected in the world. The Secret Service isn't just a security force, they're representing the U.S. on a global level.
Especially when foreign leaders visit the U.S.
Right. Imagine a president from another country is here. Their safety is the top priority. If anything goes wrong, security-wise, it could be a huge diplomatic mess. Relationships between countries could be damaged, international stability could be at risk.
So the Secret Service, just by doing their job well, they're helping keep the world stable.
Absolutely. Their work goes way beyond just protecting people. It's about keeping good relationships between countries, building trust, and encouraging cooperation.
Wow, it's wild how these things, protection and diplomacy are so linked.
It is, and it shows how complex security is in the 21st century. It's not just walls and guards anymore. It's about understanding the big picture, all the global forces at play, how security decisions can have ripple effects everywhere.
Listening to you, I keep thinking back to those 12 fast facts. Some were so surprising, even funny.
The one about the president never being alone, even in the bathroom.
That's the one. It shows you how vigilant they have to be 234/7 to protect the most powerful person in the world. But it's also kind of human, right?
Totally. It's a unique job, requires a crazy amount of dedication, and let's be honest, a high tolerance for the not-so-glamorous parts of security work.
For sure. And then there's that whole thing about carrying bags of the president's blood type. It sounds like a movie, but it shows how seriously they take being prepared for anything.
They train to expect the unexpected no matter how unlikely. That's where intel gathering and analysis.
And then you've got cyber threats. That's a whole other layer of complexity.
Totally. Protecting against cyber attacks is a top priority for them now. They have whole teams dedicated to protecting important infrastructure and sensitive info from hackers and cybercriminals, 2004-7.
So the Secret Service is constantly evolving, right? Adapting to these new challenges, using technology to stay ahead of the bad guys.
They have to. The threats are constantly changing, so they have to stay ahead of the curve to keep everyone safe. It really shows their commitment and their ability to innovate in this rapidly changing world.
It does. The Secret Service is such a vital part of our national security, and their work is more important than ever. We've covered so much in this part of our dive, all the complexities of global protection, the growing role of technology, but there's still more to explore. Stick with us as we wrap up our journey into the world of the U.S. Secret Service. Welcome back. It's the final part of our deep dive into the U.S. Secret Service. It's been quite a journey, right? From their beginnings back in the 1800s to this complex world of protecting people globally and dealing with cyber threats.
It really shows you how much they've changed, just like the country itself. Always facing new challenges, always adapting.
One thing that really stuck with me is that dual mission thing. Protecting people, A&D, our financial system, that's pretty unique.
Yeah, it is. They're like bodyguards, A&D, financial detectives, all in one. And they have to be good at both. It's a balance, for sure. Because keeping people safe and keeping our money safe, they're totally connected.
It makes you wonder, how do they even find people who can do all that? Protecting the president, investigating financial crimes.
Yeah.
Those seem like totally different worlds.
It's a tough process. They're looking for people with a very specific skill set. Intelligence, integrity, gotta be physically fit, strong work ethic, totally committed to public service.
And then there's constant training, right? Because the security world never stops changing.
Exactly. They have to stay ahead of the game, whether it's new tech, new threats, changes in global politics. It never ends.
We talked about the challenges they're facing, like low morale. It's kind of scary that they were ranked last in job satisfaction. What can be done about that?
It's a tough one. It's not just TLA about salary and benefits. Those matter. It's also the insane pressure, the crazy hours, missing out on personal stuff. We got to make sure they have the support they need to do their jobs well. A&D have a life outside of work.
Right, it's easy to forget they're regular people with families and lives outside of this super demanding job.
Totally. We can't forget that. And honestly, we should be thanking them more. They put their lives on the line every day for us.
As we wrap up, what are the big things you want our listeners to take away from this?
I think the biggest one is the Secret Service does so much more than just protect the president. They keep our money safe, fight counterfeiting and fraud, investigate cybercrime. They're even involved in diplomacy with other countries. It's a huge mission that affects all of us, whether we realize it or not.
And we can't forget the dedication and sacrifice of everyone in the Secret Service. True heroes, they deserve our respect and gratitude.
Couldn't agree more. We might not see their work all the time, but it's vital to keeping our country safe and secure.
So, as we leave our listeners to think about all this, what's one last thought-provoking question for them? Something to really hang on.
How about this? How will the Secret Service keep up with all the new threats, both physical and financial, in a world that's more connected than ever? The challenges they face are going to get even tougher. Their ability to change and innovate, that's what's going to determine if they succeed.
That's a big question with no easy answers. But it's something we all need to be thinking about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of the U.S. Secret Service. We hope you keep learning about this fascinating agency and how security and intelligence affect our lives every day.